We survived it. All right, so my name is Alexander Caldwell, also known as AJ. I just have to say Alexander Caldwell because I'm from the South and my mother's told me if I don't use my name that she gave me, she's gonna beat me, right? So I wanna make sure I use my name at any given time. But today we're gonna be talking about non-compliant doesn't mean defiance, right? So first we'll talk about some background on myself, I'll get that out the way, and then we'll talk about what you all came here for. All right, so I started my career in animal welfare in 2017. At the end of 2017, when I was sworn in as an animal control officer in Columbus, Georgia. Went on, was promoted to sergeant, started taking over our training program known as the FTO, doing some work with officers as they were hired. I then left field services and joined Paul's Humane Society in Columbus, Georgia. I always list that I did Pets for Life, but they will tell you I tried to do everything as quickly as possible. And jumped through as many positions as I possibly could. But I landed on Pets for Life in 2021 and then joined Best Friends in 2022 after coming to one of the national conferences where I was recruited by my now director. No one explained to me that that's what you do at conferences a lot, and it happened, just so happened to happen while I was next to my executive director from Paul's, right? But that's beside the point. I've been here since 2022 and been loving it and enjoying it ever since. So what we came to talk about, most serious aspect, what I'm most concerned about, Kendrick and Drake beef, right? That's what everybody's concerned about right now. So, by show of hands, who's team Kendrick? Okay, my people, and who's team Drake? Oh, gotta go. Now, if you're like my director, Scott Giacopo, and you don't know what I'm talking about, you can raise your hand too, right? All right. You're still welcome in the conversation, you're welcome in the training, but catch me after this and we'll talk about it. All right, what we're really here to talk about is non-compliance and defiance, right? Understanding how they don't actually mean the same thing, right? And it's so weird to think about that with things that are two completely different words. You would think that everybody understands that it's two completely different things, right? But a lot of times it goes into our sense of understanding, our sense of direction, our sense of looking at things. But when we think, can everyone really think and say, you know, how have you ever had a moment where you were lost on your way to something, going to something, going through something, right? If I ever work with you or like any of my friends in the region can tell you, I have a bad sense of direction. I have a bad sense of understanding timing as well, right? A lot of times when you work with me or I come to do projects, things may not go as planned. I may tell you that I'm gonna be out to the state we're working with at 7 p.m. and I get there at 3 a.m. I don't know how it happens, but it happens, right? So we notice that that starts to go on or happens or occurs a lot in animal welfare. It happens a lot in field services especially. Things do not go as planned. When it comes to working with our community, things do not go as planned. When it comes to trying to invite people in or alter our own operations, things do not go as planned, right? And a lot of times we start to notice that we're lost. But it ends up being by the time we notice and realize that we're lost, we've been lost for some time, right? So just think about for a moment, all the years we've been doing animal welfare, all the years we've been doing field services, how long did it take for us to realize that we can't just snatch up dogs and kill them? How long did it take for us to realize we can't snatch up cats and kill them? How long did it take us to realize that animal control officers are officers and not dog catchers, right? So for a moment, think about things that you do day to day that now when you have time to reflect, were they right or were they wrong, right? Animal welfare isn't something that happens spontaneously, right? Everything's thrown at us all the time, but we can't do things as quickly as we want. So we have to take moments and see where are we at. Are we still in line with what we're supposed to be doing, what we want to do? Also to segue and cut into this, there's a mic in the middle of the room. This is also an open presentation. So if you want to get up and ask a question, please go to the mic, ask the question, flag me down. I'm a millennial and a little bit ADHD, so you may have to furl your arms a little bit, but we'll be able to get your question in as quickly as possible, okay? So we start to also notice when it comes to direction and going certain places, at least for guys, in the sense of driving, there seems to be a direct correlation with our speed and our sense of direction, right? So what does that mean? Faster means better. If I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing, I'm gonna speed it up, right? But does that work in animal welfare? Does that work in field services? If we don't know what's going on, if we don't know what's happening around us, do we need to speed up? Or do we need to slow down? Do we need to take a moment and think, thoroughly go through our operations, go through what we're doing, go through a problem, mitigate our issue, understand our standards, or do we just need to throw caution into the wind? A lot of times, we realize that we're lost way before we even know it. So we'll look at the operations of field services and say, we have it all together. We have a connection with our community. Our community's not bashing us every single day, but we don't notice we're completely lost. What are we tasking our field services to do? What are we asking our community to go through, right? What's the expectation we actually have? A lot of times we take this odd combination, right? Being confident and clueless at the same time. Now I know that comes with the development of a frontal cortex. As you grow older, you develop your frontal lobe, not cortex, my apologies, and you end up understanding more things. You're not as clueless. Now we do all work with some people that are still trying to develop at 30, 40, 45, whatnot. However, we still would deal with this. We move so quickly, so rapidly with full out confidence, but we're clueless to what's going on. Can we truly say that we thoroughly think through our operations of field all the time? Can we say that we think through our actions as field services officers or field supervisors or directors or liaisons between field and a rescue? Are we thinking through our actions all the time? Or are we moving as quickly as we can? And then when we start to notice that we have the confidence, we're still clueless, we just look away from it. We don't acknowledge it, we don't go through it, we don't sit down and discuss, we move a little faster, right? Once we have a complaint come up that, oh, well, your officers are going out and doing this. Okay, we'll handle that. Our handling, let's go do a sweep, right? We have one call of a cruelty within the street, let's go and hit that entire block. But are we thinking about a solution or are we thinking about a quick fix, right? Are we as an industry now doing the trend of a millennial and we want instant gratification? We just want to clear out something quickly. A lot of times when we can realize that we're moving confidently, we're moving cluelessly, we're not thinking through things, some individuals come up and they try and assist us. They try to communicate about it, they try and help us. Some people are brave enough to call this crazy organization that loves the color orange, and they come out, they send somebody like me to smile, jump around, and get lost around your building, and we'll tell you all these things. We'll talk about, ways of altering things, recommendations. If you're as blunt as Scott is and from Boston, you won't be so easy about it, and you'll just say, you need to turn all this around. All right, we start to use our direction language. And then at that same time, once we're telling you, okay, we need to turn this around, whether it's an outside entity, it's your community, it's your own staff, how do we normally respond? Thank you so much, but I'm fine. After working with over almost 2 years with Best Friends and approximately 8 to 9 assessments, constant projects, mentorships, I've never had anybody say it quite like that. I've had the times of, please, and excuse my language, get your ass out of here. You don't know what you're talking about. What gives you the qualifications to say this, right? But how many times are we just doing that by defense? How many times are we moving with full confidence, not having a clue of what we're doing because we're trying to protect ourselves or protect what we feel like is right? The phrase that we always hear, this is how we've always done things like this. This is how we've always done things, right? If we keep doing how we've always done them, we wouldn't have to continue to work. None of us in this room would have a job, right? If anything worked that we had constantly been doing. So think about that for a moment. How many times do your first response to a community member, first response to a partner is, this is how we've always done things. I'm not gonna leave the room open for suggestion. I'm not gonna leave the room open for constructive criticism. This is how we've always done things, right? That phrase does not allow room for change. It doesn't allow room for collaboration. It doesn't allow room for anything, okay? So starting in Columbus Animal Control, started as an officer. I went through and luckily had a mentor, right? When I first started, this tiny, decrepit looking old man, Sergeant Ben Atkinson, right? The first time I interacted with him was when I found a kitten at my home. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know we had animal control, so I dialed 911. He showed up at my home. I did this long spiel with him of, I checked the cat and did all this and yada, yada, yada. Nodded his head, took the kitten, walked off, right? This is the same person that the next day came back and told me, maybe you need to apply here. Maybe you need to come work in animal welfare. This is the same person that mentored me throughout my years as an officer, told me to go before the board to be a sergeant, coached me throughout my time as a sergeant, still coaches me now. And I went to him recently because I said, I just don't really understand what's going on with us as an industry. There are a lot of times that, we gather like this in conferences where we're right next to each other, but we have the same problems, but we don't share solutions. We don't communicate. We always use the phrase of it doesn't work in my city. It doesn't work here. It may work there, but you can't do it everywhere, right? So he said to me, a lot of times when you speak to people, there's a way that seems right to someone. But a lot of times when someone is doing that one thing, it can take you to a dead end. So if I reach out to a shelter that's 30 miles away from me, get some assistance, get some help, and they tell me everything that they have going on, they walk me through my problems, am I gonna be receptive of it? Is this person gonna tell me the full gambit of what I need? Or is it gonna just send me to a dead end, right? Are we gonna work together, be collaborative with ourselves, with our industry, with our community, or are we gonna be at a dead end? A lot of times when I go to shelters, I try and task them with going out to people and asking how you feel about the operations going on, even if it's somebody that doesn't know anything about animal welfare. Every person in your community knows that something's happening. Usually, every person is called, if it's not animal control, it's 911, it's 311, it's their neighbor, it's their friend. They've called them about an issue with an animal. And I've challenged them, go out and ask them what you would have done different. A couple of shelters, once they did start doing this, they realized, and we had conversations and meetings, and what they were telling me was that, people would say the same thing. You need to switch this. This isn't going right, and I feel like you need to just turn this around and stuff, and every time people were using directional language. So what does that tell us? We're still not going on a proper path, right? So you think once you start to realize that as an agency, you end up using directional language as well, and you just simply say, I'm not sure where to turn. I don't know who to reach out to. I don't know who I can trust. I don't know who is actually trying to help me. I don't know how to get back to where we started at. I don't know how to get back to a better area. I don't know how to get back to a better level. But no matter what, it's still just directional language. But the best thing of that is once you start asking the questions to yourself, you start realizing that everything we are doing is not perfect, then we can say this to ourselves, right? We can't get to where we want to be until we recognize where we are. If we understand that we still have euthanasia going on for capacity, we still have careless decisions being made, we still have staff that are not fully buying in, we have to acknowledge that before we try and change anything. We can't keep moving, keep going, trying to get faster and faster than what we were doing the day before, because we're still gonna show the exact same result. Now, I submit this to you, I implore you to go out and reach out to more people than just your immediate people you talk to, your immediate partners. Because a lot of times when we do that, and you talk to those people that are normally working with you, they tell you the same thing, right? They tell you that, oh yeah, you're right, this is good, you're never wrong. You've always got the right answer. If you're going and talking to somebody that tells you you're always correct, you need to find somebody new, right? As someone that works on a team with people that have been in this industry longer than I've been alive, I have never went to any of them and they told me, oh yeah, you're right. It's always, no, this can be better. No, you can actually develop on this. No, this can compound. Think about this. Go ask this. Go figure out this, right? We have to make sure we're utilizing people around us, but utilizing them to a full extent. All right, so I know what everybody's thinking now. AJ, what does this have to do with noncompliance and defiance? We don't care about quotes. We don't care about these little sayings or directions. We all use GPS anyway, right? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about understanding defiance. So let's straight define it. Defiance being someone that's knowingly refusing to obey a directive or a given task given by someone with a known formal authority. I know that sounds very like police-esque, law enforcement-esque, right? That's what happens when you get to the level of defiance. So you look at the highlighted words, knowingly known authority. Somebody that knows they are in the wrong, they know you are a person of authority, and they're saying, whatever. You're the pound. You're a dog catcher. Yeah, whatever. That's when we get in the area of defiance, right? Those people we've tried to assist, we've tried to do things, we've sent countless officers back and forth to, and they're still saying whatever, right? Now let's look at noncompliance. By definition, individual or a failure to follow or adhere with something such as an established rule or regulation, whether written or spoken by a person of authority. So if you break that down further, failure, lack, ineffectualness, inefficiencies measured by some legal standard. So it's not our own feelings, it's not our biased opinion, right? We have a written ordinance, we have a state law, we have something that we are holding them to, but this individual also has an unsuccessful attempt, right? That's the key, an unsuccessful attempt. If somebody's trying and they failed, they didn't tell you to kick rocks. They just may not know what they're doing. In this room, in this conference, across this country, there are experts within animal welfare, right? We can't have an expectation of people that are not the experts to know everything. Right, so we give them the grace and we understand that they are not in compliance, yes, but we're going to figure out how to get them in compliance. All right, so let's break down established, simplified even more. Established, permanent, written, documented. Not our own feelings. How many people deal with going out to a call and there's a dog outside and you're like, this dog could be in your bed. This dog could be in a crate indoors, anything, right? I deal with that all the time. A lot of times people expect me to have some, huge pitty, Dane, Roddy. I have a small Chihuahua, just to let you know. Yeah, thank you, Chihuahua people. He is a Chihuahua mixed with something else, I don't know. He doesn't bark, he yips all the time and kind of yowls like a feral cat, but still love him. I still dress him up in his hoodies and his shirts, and we go run in the morning. I'm that person, exactly, right? But when I go out on calls and I go into training for officers, I have to make sure that I'm not instilling my bias on a community. Not everyone wants to put a shirt on a dog. Not everyone wants a dog to be inside all the time, right? I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's crazy. What do you mean? Every dog, indoors. But we have to give that grace for our community. We constantly question, why do they not want to buy in? Why do they not want to work with us? Because we impose our own feelings on our community all the time. If we're working through a letter of the law, if we're working through an expectation of somebody to abide by the law, we have to go by that standard of the law, written, documented ordinances. All right, so let's understand science of compliance. It's proven that compliance gaining techniques should not only rely on applying negative pressure or punitive action, but focus on changing behavior by rendering a unique form, or of solution. So what that means, we can't be RoboCop all the time, right? We can't go out and be Animal Control Rambo. We can't be the SWAT to come up and 24/7, right? We have to bring ourselves back down, relate to our community. Yes, there are elements of punitive action and negative pressure, but we do not use that all the time. So through punitive action, citation, how many people do forced surrenders or have done forced surrenders, right? It's a very real moment. I've done it, to where you go out and you don't really want to deal with coming back and dealing with this person that's not getting it for some reason. So you say what you need to say, line it up as best you can with the law, get them to sign the paperwork to take the pet from their home. What did you just do? Add to your population, right? And what is that person gonna do? Go get another dog. And they're not gonna come to you. And now the dog's not documented, it's not sterilized, and then it gets loose. It's an under-socialized dog. And now you got 6 officers out here running around, right? We don't wanna do that. It's a vicious cycle. Negative pressure, in lieu of. How many people have heard of that? How many people have done the in lieu of method, right? It hurt my heart to know that that's not the best method to do. You go to someone's house and say, well, yeah, you got violation of 5-12, 5-12-1, 5-8A, 5-93, 513-3, and I'm gonna go over here and get a warrant signed. We're gonna do this. But I won't do it if you just give me the dog. If you just get rid of these animals over here, right? What are we doing again? Adding to our population, destroying trust with our community, telling them that all we know is enforcement, right? How many people understand that an animal control officer is not just law enforcement, right? If we could just wear that one hat, it'd be an easy damn day. That'd be it. Write tickets, take an animal, go home. But we have to remind our community that we wear multiple hats, but we can't do that when the only time we interact with them is negative. Constant checks. I'm very much guilty of previously doing that. If I know you have an issue, as a sergeant, I'm going to line up the next couple shifts to circle back to your home constantly, right? That's negative pressure. I'm giving you no time to come in compliance. I'm constantly gonna check on you, and I'm gonna keep breaking down. I'm gonna break you down until you call and say, just take the dog, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mess up, right? But we don't wanna apply negative pressure to our community. We want our community to look at us positively, but we do nothing positive for them. So by constant checks, it goes just beyond just animal control. How many people work closely with their police department, their sheriff's department, code inspections? So I had a good relationship with our police department. It was a positive thing, negative thing in my days of everybody's bad, right? To where we would decide to do, if I go out, do a check, I send an officer out to do a check, call somebody in patrol, they go by. And then we do it all over again the next day. What does that do? Make our community realize not only can we not trust animal control, but I can't call patrol for it. If I call patrol, they're gonna call animal control, it's all gonna be negative, right? Now we're taking another agency that's definitely trying to bring themselves up in the light of the community, and we're aligning ourselves with that you can't look at us on a positive side at all. All right, so thinking about behavior modification for compliance. So it can be broken down in what I don't feel is simple things, but it's digestible things, right? So pre-contemplation, that being a stage in which there is no intention for immediate change, right? You're going out to a call, you're assessing what's going on. You're trying to now map out what you can do, what can happen. Where can we go from here? We're just contemplating everything. Then contemplation. Seriously and critically thinking about what's going on. Are the resources available? Am I getting a clear connection with this person? Do I need to involve another person? Contemplating all avenues. This is going to completely fail. Do we have history on this individual? Any type of other aspect that you may need. Preparation, planning, being intentional with all of your actions, right? Not wasting our resources. We already do not have a lot of resources at our disposal, so we have to be intentional and make sure we have a full prep done before we do an action. And that next stage being action. Going out directly, working with an individual, working with multiple individuals, working with a community, with these exact resources that we have prepped to be able to get to them. And then maintenance, follow-up, the follow-through. How many people understand that when you give somebody a tether, you can't just hand it to them, all right? A lot of people don't understand how to properly tether a dog, set up a tether at all. A lot of people don't understand how to set up a wire kennel. Some people may not understand of, all right, well, if you gave me this dog food, do I just dump out half the bag and he eats it as he feels? Right, we have maintenance, so we have follow through. We constantly come back, work with them, check in, see how everything's going. All right, so there's something that over the years I've been trying to figure out. How do we get our community involved more? How do we look to make compliance more of an actionable thing? I work a lot with April Moore, and she loves buckets for some reason. Everything relates back to bucketing things. So I figured, let's make a bucket of E's. Everything relate back to the E. That being these 3E statements or these 3E understandings that can gain compliance with your community, gain relation with your community. So we want to look at eliminating friction, evaluating always, experimenting constantly, engaging deeply, empower excitement and uniqueness, right? That's within our own agency, that's within our community. So eliminating friction. What's a friction point? A problem, right? An element of frustration of our community. It could be our community, it could be our staff, it could be our partners. How do you deal with this frustration? How do you eliminate it? You have what's called a mirror moment. You take time and you look at yourself. You look inward, you look at your agency. You put yourself in your community's shoes. Are we making everything digestible? Are we making everything accessible for people? We look at elements within our community. Does our community actually need these resources? Am I in a farming community and I'm trying to give wire kennels to everyone to say they need to put their pets inside? And we know they have guardian dog population, right? So we look into our community so we understand what we're doing. Understand that this is our starting point to be able to work with our community. We eliminate our friction. For me, with understanding friction point, starting in animal welfare or starting in animal control, I was in school for criminal justice, very heavy law enforcement background. If you ask any of my friends right now, I'm not supposed to be in animal welfare. I'm supposed to be a federal officer by now. They make fun of me all the time because they are still in law enforcement, and they're like, you're playing with dogs and cats, right? It wasn't until I had a light bulb or aha moment in my career. I started to realize that what was pushing me every day was a 98% prosecution rate, was anybody that I go out to, you're gonna possibly end up in jail, right? And then I look back and realize this is not helping anyone. The dogs that I removed from these homes are in a shelter where we struggle every day not to euthanize for capacity. We have rescue partners that contact for assistance, but what they're not asking me to do is take the dog and hand it to them, right? So it was when I got to reflect back into myself and realize I have an expertise that can assist, or I have an expertise that can hinder. So am I gonna keep doing the thing that now I know is wrong and not assisting, or do I keep going on because I feel like it's right? Next, E, evaluate always. 3 components of evaluation: self, that mirror reflection, environmental, organizational. All right, self-reflection. By acknowledging the behavior of an officer, that the behavior of an officer can impact the behavior of a citizen. All right, all conference long, every presentation has talked a little bit about de-escalation and understand the situation. If you run up and you scream at me, oh buddy, I'm bucking back, what's up? It's very simple. I may be short, but don't let it fool you, right? Your behavior, someone feeds off of that at all times. Whatever you do, they will do. It's easily understood that the last impression is a lasting impression. That last time you communicate with someone, they're gonna take that as the entire thing for your agency. They may never interact with you again. You have to think about it as all in what you say, how you say it, and how you look when you're saying it. This is an industry that we get burnt out plenty of times, right? You may not know it, I got a horrible RBF. Horrible RBF. You can't go and talk to the community of, you want some dog food? What can we do to help you? Wait, yeah, call us if you need help. Yeah. We have to pay attention to what we're saying, how we're saying, and how we look at all times. People are watching constantly. Right? Social media is our best friend and our worst enemy sometimes. Every time there are hundreds of eyes on us. I love quotes. I'm obsessed with quotes. There's a quote in my email. So I figured it would be right to have a quote in this. And what better than a quote from Maya Angelou, right? And it says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. It doesn't matter a lot of the times if you can't get exactly what someone's asked, exactly what someone said they need. It's all in what you're doing with them. That interaction, right? My proudest moment was when I cited a guy for 13 counts of cruelty. There were handcuff puts on him because he had a warrant. And he told me to have a blessed day with a smile on his face. We went to court. He apologized for all of his violations. He apologized for having an outstanding warrant, all because of how we made him feel during the process, right? No matter what happens, no matter what's going on around us, it's how we make another living individual feel. It's a major component of best friends, right? We make sure that we extend our love to all living beings. In all of animal welfare, we have to remember that, even in field services. We can still be strict, we can still have a guideline for people to follow, but we have to remember to care about how they feel while we're going through it. All right, so we're gonna get out the emotional stuff and we're gonna go real in field services for a minute. Environmental evaluation, right? So looking at the environment that we're in. I don't know if everybody can see this. Here we got one dog that's in a wire kennel, blanket on top, 2 bowls on a porch, another puppy on a tether on the side of a house. Right, this is a call that I actually worked. Can somebody run up to the mic and tell me what you see? Anybody? Tell me what you see here.
I see maybe someone struggling.
Someone struggling?
I mean, the bowls, at least from what I can tell, look empty. So maybe they don't have enough food to be able to leave food out regularly for the animal outside.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna make it bigger on each of them.
Can I tag off that?
Yeah, you tell me what you see there, you tell me what you see in all of them?
An opportunity to provide a doghouse. An opportunity to provide, if your ordinances allow, proper tether. And maybe food.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Good. Anybody else? Just scroll through the pictures here.
I guess I'm more of a negative Nancy. I don't see food or water in range of the tether. I see empty bowls, and
Okay.
and on the first one, I see a blanket that would get completely soaking wet and drenched, and I don't see bowls in the kennel.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, y'all feel free to go up. Open presentation.
I actually see somebody who cares about their animals. They took the time to try to secure them. They put
Yeah.
one in a crate and tethered the other one to try to make sure that they didn't get into harm's way. They left bowls out for the potential to provide them food and water. But I agree with the other person who said this is a person who needs some help.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming from the animal control side, neighbor calling, saying someone leaves their dogs out all the time, not doing anything, not providing food and water for them. So I need animal control to come over and tell them what's up, take the dogs, because they obviously don't care about them.
Yeah. Good one, good.
Best I can tell, I see healthy dogs.
Yeah. So,
Oh, do you want-
yes.
So shelter, not field services. I see someone who got a puppy that needs training, probably needs shots. Maybe he's having diarrhea and that's why he's outside. And that's my approach to it.
Yeah, good.
I mean, can you go back one, AJ? The reason the blanket on top of the crate for me is they're trying to keep the animal out of direct sun. And I think they're actually over a porch too, so it's hopefully not going to get as wet. But also that's just what they had as a resource to keep the animal out of the sun. And like someone else was saying, they're keeping their pet secure with what they have.
Yeah. Good, nice.
So for the food and water bowl, I see out of context because I don't know when that food was eaten, right? Could have been eaten right before I got there. And to me, it looks like water could have been spilt out of that. It doesn't mean that it wasn't provided. It may have been prior to me getting there or right before they're about to get more.
Definitely. So, like I said, this was a case I worked. It actually took me about 2 hours to get everything done here, right? 3 pictures, 2 hours. After all of that work, all that I could say that was done was an attempt, right? An attempt was done. So a little backstory of it. This pet owner was living in subsidized housing. They listed nowhere in their agreement that he couldn't have pets, but he found some form of loophole that his pets could still be outside as long as they weren't hindering any other resident, right? This is somebody that acquired 2 dogs that were running loose prior. He found a wire kennel in a dump, went and got bowls from his local humane society, and found a tether for a puppy, right? This gentleman didn't know what he was doing. All he knew was animal control gets calls every single day, all day long. We were on the road 24/7. And he said the last thing y'all needed to be dealing with was a tiny dog and a puppy. In his eyes, we had bigger things to worry about. But he also thought, I don't want to put myself at risk and call you all because you handle things in big ways. If I call you, you're then going to say, I'm in violation, I don't have my pets anymore. Right? So did we win or did we fail? Here's a person that's caring about our agency and is not going to call us inundated with calls of, oh, this dog's running around, he's just going to go get it and bring it in his home. But then we fail because this is an individual that doesn't feel that he can trust us to support him, right? Luckily, he went to his humane society and got some supplies. But did he even think that he can go further? So that takes me into your next E, or your next part of evaluation, organizational. Does my organization have the tools and the mission to assist the community? It's extremely important to know your organization, right? Know what's your purpose, what are you trying to do? Here, I have 3 organizations that I work with. Work with them as closely as possible. Young Williams Animal Center, City of Visalia Animal Care, Companion Animal Alliance of Baton Rouge. All 3 organizations work tirelessly to make sure that they have resources, not just for their community, but for officers to be the forward-facing element of community support, right? They do that through a number of things. Do that through a pet resource center. They do that through Pets for Life. All right, how many people know what Pets for Life is? How many agencies have Pets for Life within your own agency, or you have somebody in partnership that you work with that has Pets for Life? All right, so I keep bringing up Paws Humane. I'll shamelessly plug, I used to work there, love them. They're over there in the corner trying to hide off on the side. But we use them all the time, right? Once we started realizing we have to actually affect change in our community, we can't expect our rescue partners to be out in the field 24/7. But what I can do is bug the hell out of them. I can call my rescue partner and say, I need this, that, or this is the phone number for this person at that address, this address. They need all of these things. And then I can follow up. I can then be that person that's going out working with the community of, all right, what else do you need? And they can be the vessel of supplies, right? Making sure we are always pushing more and more support and resources for people. All right, so our next C, experiment constantly. We want to make sure that we're not afraid to fail. Experimentation is just that, it's supposed to fail, right? We replace the failure with another thing. If I would have given up after things I've tried failed, I would not be in animal welfare anymore. I spend all of my hours in my little office at home coming up with random things, sending them to people, bugging everybody in my organization of, what about this? Can we try this? You got something for this? Can you do this? We want to make sure we're experimenting at all times, right? This is a short video from Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff Bezos is a person that always talks about experimentation from Amazon and believes heavily in experimentation.
It's hard to get people to take bold bets, and you need to encourage that. And if you're going to take bold bets, they're going to be experiments, and if they're experiments, you don't know ahead of time whether they're going to work. Experiments are by their very nature prone to failure, but big successes, a few big successes compensate for dozens and dozens of things that didn't work. So, bold bets, AWS, Kindle, Amazon Prime, our third-party seller business, all of those things are examples of bold bets that did work, and they pay for a lot of experiments. I've made billions of dollars of failures at Amazon.com, literally billions of dollars of failures. And, you might remember Pets.com or Cosmo, or, give myself a root canal with no anesthesia very easily. None of those things are fun, but they don't matter. What really matters is companies that don't continue to experiment, companies that don't embrace failure, they eventually get in a desperate position where the only thing they can do is make a kind of Hail Mary bet at the very end of their corporate existence. Whereas companies that are, making bets all along, even, big bets, but not bet the company bets. I don't believe in bet the company bets. That's when you're desperate. That's the last thing you can do.
Definitely, so we want to make sure we experiment at all times, right? We're supposed to fail when we're trying and trying and trying. We should throw things at the wall, see what sticks. That's the phrase everyone uses, keep trying. Now, I'm not saying go and try and spend billions of dollars. Do not go back to your directors and say, AJ said we need $1 billion to try things every single day. All right, but we can constantly experiment, change up what we're doing. This is something that I was told when I first started on National Shelter Support Team. I was confused. Coming into a team for a national organization, I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to be focusing on? And I was told, look, man, you're in a field. There's a tree in the middle of the field. Don't hit the fucking tree. Very simple. Very simple. That's animal welfare. Don't hit the tree. You got a whole field. If you hit the tree, come on now. Next E, engage deeply. Engaged listening, intentional responses, follow through. We want to make sure when people are talking to us and telling us things, we're not just shoving them off, giving the okay, the yeah song, or like a lot of my fellow millennials will do, put an AirPod in and you're listening to Kendrick's next, diss track as somebody's talking to you, right? We want to make sure we are engaged the entire time and we have intentional responses. If a community member says that they need some type of confinement for their pet when they're outside, we don't want to bring them a bag of dog food. What is that going to do for them? They came directly with what they needed, and then we bring something opposed to what they need, right? What does that tell them? I'm not listening to you. I'm checking a box. Support. Done. Dog food, give out. Done. Right? We want to make sure we are always intentionally responding and follow through. If we support somebody for a good bit of time and then we let them know that, hey, we're going to transition you to where we're going to show you how to support yourself and sustain yourself, we follow through with that. We don't leave anybody hanging, right? The scariest thing is to have all the support in the world and then it comes from under you. You're left worse off than you were in the beginning, right? Has anybody ever, when you were learning how to ride a bike, did somebody say, okay, I got you, and then kick you down a long hill, right? If that's how it's supposed to go, I'm teaching my son how to ride a bike right now. If it's supposed to go like that, let me know, because we are struggling, okay? But we want to make sure we're following through, we're staying consistent with people. Andy Stanley says, do for one what you wish you can do for many. I had a thing with dog food, especially when I started at Paws. I didn't care how much dog food I was told we got in the building. If somebody asked for it, they got dog food. I want to keep doing for everyone what I want to do for everybody in our community. You come in and ask for it, I'm going to give it to you because I want to be able to give it to everyone around you. And I'm going to keep doing it, right? We want to make sure that we're consistent with our support. We're giving everyone our all. All right, and that final E, empower action and uniqueness. So I say a lot that, people always say, well, that doesn't work in our city. Our city's different. There's different things going on. Orlando is where it's at. We're strict over here, right? But we want to make sure that we are being unique with our solutions. Sometimes some things are particular for our area. The heat in Texas does not match the heat in Alaska, right? You're not going to support the same way. The heat up there apparently does not exist, but it's not going to be the same. We're not going to work the same. Our efforts are not going to be the same. Our agencies are not going to look the same. Our response is not going to be the same. But when you're in an area of, let's say, leadership, a supervisor role, you want to make sure you're always empowering your staff, and your staff is empowering your community to always put an action item out. Do action. Put moves behind your words. I can tell you right now that, oh, well, yeah, Scott will send a grant to everybody that wants one. And if Scott doesn't do the action, it doesn't exist, right? Scott's not going to do that. I'm going to let y'all know that right now because he just gave me the death stare. There's no grants for everybody in here, okay? But it's that, empower the action, empower the uniqueness. Let's figure out different solutions. What do they need to do? We don't want to say that, right? We want to figure out what can I do for them? How can I bring them in compliance? How can I change everything that's went on? How can I make their bad good? I want to take their burden, their stress, put it on me. Supposed to be the person out here as an expert, supporting at all times, through any way, any facet. We have to put the action behind our words, right? So I'll talk briefly about something called a challenge. If you scan that QR code, it gets you not only my email, but my cell phone number. Everybody in this room, I'm challenging you to look at your organization, figure out what works, what doesn't work. When you get that phone number, don't text me random things, okay? Don't send me TikToks in the middle of the night. I'm not, I need to sleep after this conference or my manager will fight me, okay? But send me those ideas. Let's have the conversation. If you realize your agency has a shortcoming where you want to support by food, you want to support by education, we are here to work with you. I have the privilege of working for the National Shelter Support Team, where I get paid to constantly go to shelters to see what you want to do and make it a reality. That is our purpose. That's what I'm begging you to go ahead and try. If there's something that you feel like may be done somewhere else, we will figure out how to connect you with those people. Okay? On that note, thank you for being here.